Welcome back to the Buddhist Bookshelf YouTube channel. Today we will continue reading The Sorrowless Flower, written Ngoc Tran Dharma named Thien Phuc, episodes number 18. 232. 5 Turbidities. 5 turbidities, or defilements, or depravities, are 5 stages of a world existence. In the Surangama Sutra, Book 4, the Buddha reminded Ananda about the 5 turbidities as follows. Ananda. While you are in your body, what is solid is of earth, what is moist is of water, what is warm is of fire, and what moves is of wind. Because of these 4 bonds, your tranquil and perfect, wonderfully enlightened bright mind divides into seeing, hearing, sensation, and cognition. From beginning to end there are the 5 layers of turbidity. What is meant by turbidity? Ananda. Pure water, for instance, is fundamentally clear and clean, whereas dust, dirt, ashes, silt, and the like are basically solid substances. Such are the properties of the two, their natures are not compatible. Suppose, then, that an ordinary person takes some dirt and tosses it into the pure water. The dirt loses its solid quality, and the water is deprived of its transparency. The cloudiness which results is called turbidity. Your 5 layers of turbidity are similar to it. The first turbidity is the kalpa turbidity, or the turbidity of the kalpa. The defilement of the lifespan, when the human lifespan as a whole decreases. Life is turbid, or this saha world is filled with impurity. In the Surangama Sutra, Book 4, the Buddha explained to Ananda about the kalpa turbidity as follows. Ananda. You see that emptiness pervades the 10 directions. There is no division between emptiness and seeing. However, although emptiness has no substance and your seeing has no awareness, the two become entangled in a falseness. This is the first layer, called the turbidity of time. Also in the Surangama Sutra, Book 9, the Buddha taught Ananda about how to transcend the kalpa turbidity as follows. Ananda. You should know that as a cultivator sits in the Bodhimanda, he is doing away with all thoughts. When his thoughts come to an end, there will be nothing in his mind. This state of pure clarity will stay the same whether in movement or stillness, in remembrance or forgetfulness. When he dwells in this place and enters samadhi, he is like a person with clear vision who finds himself in total darkness. Although his nature is wonderfully pure, his mind is not yet illuminated. This is the region of the form skandha. If his eyes become clear, he will then experience the 10 directions as an open expanse, and the darkness will be gone. This is the end of the form skandha. He will then be able to transcend the turbidity of kalpas. Contemplating the cause of the form skandha, one sees that false thoughts of solidity are its source. The second turbidity is the view turbidity, or the turbidity of view. Turbidity of view means all different views, perceptions, and knowledge of sentient beings that are based on false conceptions. They are gossip, competition, fame, self, egotism, right, wrong, etc. The corruption of views also means that misguided perverse views, bad views, the advocacy of total annihilation. The view that our bodies are entities we possess, the view that we are annihilated after death or else live on forever, the view that we cling to with our arbitrary opinions is best, and the view that we will find salvation by our own subjectively chosen methods. Because we are deluded by such views and utterly submerged in them, this is called the corruption of views. Corruptive views are wrong views which cause corruption of doctrinal views. View turbid, false and evil views is also the defilement of views, or perverse thoughts. In the Surangama Sutra, Book 4, the Buddha explained to Ananda about the turbidity of views as follows. Ananda. Your body appears in full, with the 4 elements compassing its substance, and from this, seeing, hearing, sensation, and cognition become firmly defined. Water, fire, wind, and earth fluctuate between sensation and cognition, and become entangled in a falseness. This is the second layer, called the turbidity of views. Also in the Surangama Sutra, Book 9, the Buddha taught Ananda about the transcendency of the affliction turbidity as follows. Ananda. When the good person who is cultivating samadhi and samatha has put an end to the form skandha, he can see the mind of all Buddhas, as if seeing an image reflected in a clear mirror. He seems to have obtained something, but he cannot use it. In this he resembles a paralyzed person. His hands and feet are intact, his seeing and hearing are not distorted, and yet his mind has come under a deviant influence, so that he is unable to move. This is the region of the feeling skandha. Once the problem of paralysis subsides, his mind can then leave his body and look back upon his face. It can go or stay as it pleases without further hindrance. This is the end of the feeling skandha. This person can then transcend the turbidity of views. Contemplating the cause of the feeling skandha, one sees that false thoughts of illusory clarity are its source. The third turbidity is the affliction turbidity or the turbidity of affliction. Turbidity of affliction means sentient beings are constantly plagued with afflictions, worries, anger, vengeance, false views, etc. All such impure thoughts consume their minds and bodies, but kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity are very rare. Thus, they cause one another innumerable afflictions. The affliction turbidity or affliction turbid, constantly in turmoil, also means the defilement of passions, when all kinds of transgressions are exalted. In the Surangama Sutra, Book 4, the Buddha explained to Ananda about the affliction turbidity as follows. Ananda. Further, the functions of memory, discrimination, and verbal comprehension in your mind bring into being knowledge and views. From out of them appear the 6 defiling objects. Apart from the defiling objects there are no appearances. Apart from cognition they have no nature. But they become entangled in a falseness. This is the third layer, called the turbidity of afflictions. Also in the Surangama Sutra, Book 9, the Buddha taught Ananda about the transcendency of the affliction turbidity as follows. Ananda. When the good person who is cultivating samadhi has put an end to the feeling skandha, although he has not achieved freedom from outflows, his mind can leave his body the way a bird escapes from a cage. From within his ordinary, he already has the potential for ascending through the bodhisattva's 60 levels of sagehood. He attains the body produced by intent and can roam freely without obstruction. This is like someone talking in his sleep. Although he does not know he is doing it, his words are clear, and his voice and inflection are all in order, so those who are awake can understand what he is saying. This is the region of the thinking skandha. If he puts an end to his stirring thoughts and rids himself of superfluous thinking, it is as if he has purged defilement from the enlightened understanding mind. Then he is perfectly clear about the births and deaths of all categories of beings from beginning to end. This is the end of the thinking skandha. He can then transcend the turbidity of afflictions. Contemplating the cause of the thinking skandha, one sees that interconnected false thoughts are its source. The fourth turbidity is the living being's turbidity, or turbidity of sentient beings. The living being's turbidity or sentient beings turbid, everyone is filled with greed, hatred, ignorance, egoism, skepticism, etc. The defilement of human condition, people are always dissatisfied and unhappy. The period where all creatures are stupid and unclean. In the Surangama Sutra, Book 4, the Buddha explained to Ananda about the turbidity of living beings as follows. Ananda. And then day and night there is endless production and extinction, as your knowledge and views continually wish to remain in the world, while your karmic patterns constantly move you to various places. This entanglement becomes a falseness, which is the fourth layer, called the turbidity of living beings. Also in the Surangama Sutra, Book 9, the Buddha taught Ananda about the transcendency of the turbidity of living beings as follows. Ananda. When the good person who is cultivating samadhi has put an end to the thinking skandha, he is ordinarily free of dreaming and idle thinking, so he stays the same whether in wakefulness or in sleep. His mind is aware, clear, empty, and still, like a cloudless sky, devoid of any coarse sense impressions. He contemplates everything in the world, the mountains, the rivers, and the earth, as reflections in a mirror, appearing without attachment and vanishing without any trace. They are simply received and reflected. He does away with all his old habits, and only the essential truth remains. From this point on, as the origin of production and destruction is exposed, he will completely see all the 12 categories of living beings in the 10 directions. Although he has not fathomed the source of their individual lives, he will see that they share a common basis of life, which appears as a mirage, shimmering and fluctuating, and is the ultimate pivotal point of the illusory sense faculties in sense objects. This is the region of the formation skandha. Once the basic nature of this shimmering fluctuation returns to its original clarity, his habits will cease, like waves subsiding to become clear calm water. This is the end of the formation skandha. This person will then be able to transcend the turbidity of living beings. Contemplating the cause of the formation skandha, one sees that subtle and hidden false thoughts are its source. The fifth turbidity is the life turbidity, or turbidity of this life, physical body. In the Zurangama Sutra, Book 4, the Buddha explained to Ananda about the life turbidity as follows. Ananda. Originally, your seeing and hearing were not different natures, but a multitude of defiling objects has divided them until suddenly they became different. Their natures have a mutual awareness, but their functions are in opposition. Sameness and difference arise and they lose their identity. This entanglement becomes a falseness, which is the fifth layer, called the turbidity of a lifespan. The life turbidity, or body turbid, body of impurity. The defilement of the world age, when war and natural disasters are rife. Human lifetime gradually diminishes to 10 years. Furthermore, the body is the accumulation of the four elements of earth, water, fire, and air, wrapped around a thin layer of skin, masking the internal reeking odors of the flesh, blood, bone, phlegm and other bodily secretions, and upon death, becomes rotten and eaten by worms. In fact, it becomes so disgusting that no one dare to go near. Also in the Surangama Sutra, Book 9, the Buddha taught Ananda about the transcendency of the turbidity of lifespan as follows. Ananda. When that good person, in cultivating samadhi, has put an end to the formation skandha, the subtle fleeting fluctuations, the deep imperceptible pivotal source and the common foundation from which all life in the world springs, are suddenly obliterated. In the submerged network of the retributive karma of the Pajala, the karmic resonances are interrupted. There is about to be a great illumination in the sky of nirvana. It is like gazing east at the cock's final crow to see the light of dawn. The six sense faculties are empty and still, there is no further racing about. Inside and outside there is a profound brightness. He enters without entering. Fathoming the source of life of the 12 categories of beings throughout the 10 directions, he can contemplate that source without being drawn into any of the categories. He has become identical with the realms of the 10 directions. The light does not fade, and what was hidden before is now revealed. This is the region of the consciousness skandha. If he has become identical with the beckoning masses, he may obliterate the individuality of the 6 gates and succeed in uniting and opening them. Seeing and hearing become linked so that they function interchangeably and purely. The worlds of the 10 directions and his own body and mind are as bright and transparent as Vidurya. This is the end of the consciousness skandha. This person can then transcend the turbidity of lifespan. Contemplating the cause of the consciousness skandha, one sees that the negation of existence and the negation of non-existence are both unreal, and that upside-down false thoughts are its source. 233. 5 shackles in the heart. In the middle-length discourses of the Buddha, the Wilderness in the Heart Sutra, the Buddha confirmed. There are 5 shackles, mental bondages, in the heart. The first shackle in the heart that he has not severed. Here a bhikkhu is not free from lust, desire, affection, thirst, fever, and craving for sensual pleasures, and thus his mind does not incline to ardor, devotion, perseverance, and striving. As his mind does not incline to ardor, devotion, perseverance, and striving. The second shackle in the heart that he has not severed. A bhikkhu is not free from lust, desire, affection, thirst, fever, and craving for the body, the rest remains the same as in the last part of 1. The third shackle in the heart that he has not severed. A bhikkhu is not free from lust, desire, affection, thirst, fever, and craving for form, the rest remains the same as the last part of 1. The fourth shackle in the heart that he has not severed. A bhikkhu eats as much as he likes until his belly is full and indulges in the pleasures of sleeping, lolling, and drowsing, as his mind does not incline to ardor, devotion, perseverance, and striving. The fifth shackle in the heart that the D has not severed. A bhikkhu lives a holy life aspiring to some order of gods thus. By this virtue or observance or asceticism or holy life, I shall become a great god or some lesser god, and thus his mind does not incline to ardor, devotion, perseverance, and striving. 234. 7 poisons. According to the Sanjiti Sutta in the long discourses of the Buddha, there are 7 latent proclivities or underlying tendencies, or inherent tendencies. For it is owing to their inviteracy that they are called inherent tendencies, anusaya, since they inhere, anusenti, as cause for the arising of greed for sense desire, etc., again and again. The first poison is the underlying tendency to sensual lust. The inherent tendency to greed for sense desire. Ordinary human love springing from desire, in contrast with religious love. The second poison is the underlying tendency to aversion, or the inherent tendency to resentment. The third poison is the underlying tendency to views, or the inherent tendency to false view. The fourth poison is the underlying, inherent tendency to doubt, uncertainty. The fifth poison is the underlying, inherent tendency to conceit, pride. The sixth poison is the underlying tendency to lust for existence, or lust for becoming. The seventh poison is the underlying tendency to ignorance. Besides, according to the Daya Nikaya Sutra and Anguttara Nikaya Sutra, there are 7 defilements that lie dormant in the recesses of man's mind. They are desire, evil thoughts, wrong views, doubt, pride, attachment, and ignorance. 235. 10 poisons. Poison is also called defilement or hindrances. These poisons are sources of all passions and delusions. The fundamental evils inherent in life which give rise to human suffering. The 3 poisons are regarded as the sources of all illusions and earthly desires. They pollute people's lives. Men worry about many things. Poisons include harsh or stern words for repressing evil, misleading teaching. Poisons are also the turbidity of desire or the contamination of desire. The poison of desire or love which harms devotion to Buddhist practices. Besides, the poison of delusion, one of the 3 poisons, and the poison of touch, a term applied to woman. According to the Buddha, there are 4 poisons in our body, or 4 poisonous snakes in a basket, which imply the 4 elements in a body, of which a man is formed. The 4 elements of the body, earth, water, fire and wind, which harm a man by their variation, i.e. increase and decrease. 3 poisons are 3 sources of all passions and delusions. The fundamental evils inherent in life which give rise to human suffering. The 3 poisons are regarded as the sources of all illusions and earthly desires. They pollute people's lives. Men worry about many things. Broadly speaking, there are 84,000 worries. But after analysis, we can say there are only 10 serious ones, which are 10 disturbers of the religious life. 10 poisons do not only cause our afflictions, but also prevent us from tasting the pure and cool flavor of emancipation, liberation. The first poison is lust. Lust is the string of craving, and attachment confines us to samsara's prison. In other words, craving and attachment are not only roots that prevent us from being sufficiently moved to renounce samsara, but they are also 2 of the main things that bind us to samsara. In order to overcome craving and attachment, we should contemplate on the impurity of the body. When we are attached to someone, for example, consider how that person is just a sack full of 6 kinds of filthy substances. Then our attachment and craving will diminish. The second poison is anger. Anger is the highly disturbed aspect of the mind that arises when we see something unpleasant. The objects of anger could be sentient beings or inanimate objects. When we involve ourselves with them, they completely disturb and torment our mind, and we wish to harm them. Anger does great damage, for it can destroy our root merits, as if they had been burnt in a fire. Anger is responsible for people taking lives, beating or stabbing others. The third poison is ignorance. Ignorance is the opposite of the word to know. In Buddhism, ignorance means not knowing, not seeing, not understanding, being unclear, and so forth. Whoever is dominated by ignorance is like a blind person because the eyes are shut, or not seeing the true nature of objects, and not understanding the truths of cause and effect, and so on. Ignorance is the root of all sufferings and afflictions. The fourth poison is pride. Pride is the inflated opinion of ourselves and can manifest in relation to some good or bad object. When we look down from a high mountain, everyone below seems to have shrunken in size. When we hold ourselves to be superior to others and have an inflated opinion of ourselves, we take on a superior aspect. It is extremely difficult to develop any good qualities at all when one has pride, for no matter how much the teacher may teach that person, it will do no good. Haughtiness means false arrogance, thinking oneself correct in spite of one's wrong conduct, thinking oneself is good in spite of one's very bad in reality. Haughtiness also means arrogance and conceit due to one's illusion of having completely understood what one has hardly comprehended at all. Haughtiness is one of the main hindrances in our cultivation. In cultivating the way, we must have genuine wisdom. Those who have genuine wisdom never praise themselves and disparage others. These people never consider themselves the purest and loftiest, and other people common and lowly. In Buddhism, those who praise themselves have no future in their cultivation of the way. Even though they are still alive, they can be considered as dead, for they have gone against their own conscience and integrity. The fifth poison is doubt. Doubt signifies hindrance and fetter to be removed. One of the mula or root causes of suffering. Skepticism, one of the 5 hindrances one must eliminate on entering the stream of saints. Vichikika is a Pali term, a combination of vi, means without, and sikika means medicine. One who suffers from perplexity is really suffering from a dire disease, and unless he sheds his doubts, he will continue to worry over and suffer from this illness. As long as man is subject to this mental itch, this sitting on the fence, he will continue to take a skeptical view of things, which is most detrimental to mental ability to decide anything definitely. It also includes doubt with regard to the possibility of attaining the jhanas. Doubting is natural. Everyone starts with doubts. We can learn a great deal from them. What is important is that we do not identify with our doubts. That is, do not get caught up in them, letting our mind spin in endless circles. Instead, watch the whole process of doubting, of wondering. See who it is that doubts. See how doubts come and go. Then we will no longer be victimized by our doubts. We will step outside of them, and our mind will be quiet. We can see how all things come and go. Let go of our doubts and simply watch. This is how to end doubting. The sixth poison is wrong views. According to Buddhism, perverted, wrong views are views that do not accept the law of cause and effect, not consistent with the Dharma, one of the 5 heterodox opinions and 10 evils. This view arises from a misconception of the real characteristic of existence. There were at least 62 heretical views, views of the externalist or non-Buddhist views, in the Buddha's time. Buddhism emphasizes on theory of causation. Understanding the theory of causation means to solve most of the question of the causes of sufferings and afflictions. Not understanding or refuse of understanding of the theory of causation means a kind of wrong view in Buddhism. According to the Buddha, sentient beings suffer from sufferings and afflictions because of desires, aversions, and delusion, and the causes of these harmful actions are not only from ignorance, but also from wrong views. Wrong views also means holding to the view of total annihilation, or the view that death ends life, or world extinction and the end of causation, in contrast with the view that body and soul are eternal, both views being heterodox. The philosophic doctrine that denies a substantial reality to the phenomenal universe. The seventh poison is killing. This is one of the 10 kinds of evil karma: to kill living beings, to take life, kill the living, or any conscious being. According to the Buddha and his teaching, written by Most Venerable Narada, killing means the intentional destruction of any living being. The Pali term pana strictly means the psycho-physical life pertaining to one's particular existence. The wanton destruction of this life force, without allowing it to run its due course, is panatapata. Pana also means that which breathes. Hence all animate beings, including animals, are regarded as pana. Plants are not considered as living beings as they possess no mind. Monks and nuns, however, are forbidden to destroy even plant life. This rule, it may be mentioned, does not apply to lay followers. According to the Buddhist laws, the taking of human life offends against the major commands, of animal life against the less stringent commands. Suicide also leads to severe penalties in the next lives. The eighth poison is stealing. Stealing means taking possession of anything that has not been given by its owner, or stealing is also wrong, even legally speaking. Stealing, one of the 4 grave prohibitions or sins in Buddhism. Stealing is taking what isn't given to us. It includes not paying taxes or fees that are due, borrowing things and not returning them, and taking things from our workplace for our own personal use. A bhikksu or bhikshuni who steals or violates the property of another, whether the property is privately or publicly owned, breaks the second of the 4 degradation offenses. He or she is no longer worthy to remain a bhiksu or bhikshuni, and cannot participate in the activities of the order of bhiksus or order of bhikshunis. The 9th poison is sexual intercourse. This is the 3rd commandment of the 5 basic commandments for lay people, and the 3rd precept of the 10 major precepts for monks and nuns in the Brahma Net Sutra. Monks or nuns who commit this offense will be expelled from the order forever. A bhiksu or bhikshuni who has sexual intercourse with another person, whether a female or male, and whether that person has given consent or not, breaks the first of the 4 degradation offenses. He or she is no longer worthy to remain a bhiksu or bhikshuni, and cannot participate in the activities of the bhiksu or bhikshuni sangha. A bhiksu who, when motivated by sexual desire, tells a woman or a man that it would be a good thing for her or him to have sexual relations with him, commits a sangha restoration offense. A bhikshuni who is intent upon having sexual relations with someone, whether male or female, breaks one of the 8 degradation offenses. She is no longer worthy to remain a bhikshuni, and cannot participate in the activities of the order of bhikshunis. Through word or gesture arouses sexual desire in that person, breaks the 7th of the 8 degradation offenses. Says to that person that she is willing to offer him or her sexual relations, breaks the degradation offenses. The 10th poison is lying. Lying means verbally saying or indicating through a nod or a shrug something we know isn't true. However, telling the truth should be tempered in compassion. For instance, it isn't wise to tell the truth to a murderer about a potential victim's whereabouts, if this would cause the latter's death. According to the Dharmapada Sutra, verse 306, the Buddha taught, "The speaker of untruth goes down, also he who denies what he has done, both sinned against truth. After death they go together to hells." 236. 4 poisonous snakes. The 4 elements are compared as the 4 snakes. The parable of a man who fled from the 2 bewildering forms of life and death, and climbed down a rope of life into the well of impermanence, where 2 mice, night and day, gnaw the rattan rope, on the 4 sides of 4 snakes, sought to poison him. The 4 elements of his physical body were the 3 dragons breathing fire and trying to seize him. On looking up he saw that 2 elephants, darkness and light, had come to the mouth of the well. He was in despair when a bee flew by and dropped some honey, the 5 desires, into his mouth, which he ate and entirely forgot his peril. 237. Powers. In Buddhism, power or ability is always used as the sense organs to discern the truth. There are many different kinds of powers, such as power of diligence, power of the mind, power of karma, power of mindfulness, power of contemplation, power of familiarization, power of listening, and so on. According to Lama Kenshin Thrangu, in the practice of tranquility and insight, the power of diligence creates mental stability, which is complete pacification. With very strong obstacles such as unhappiness, regret, or aggression, just thinking of good qualities of meditation will not eliminate them right away. Instead, 1. needs the power of diligence so that one can eliminate all strong obstacles such as attachment, aggression, and ignorance, and creates the state of complete pacification. While power of diligence depends on the Buddha, who confers his strength on all who seek it and upholds them, it implies prayer, because of obtaining the Buddha's power and transferring it to others. In general, it means to aid or to support the spiritual power of the Buddha, which is added to a bodhisattva and sustains him through his course of discipline. This is one of the conceptions peculiar to Mahayana Buddhism. The power of wisdom, prajna, the ability to maintain clear wisdom or the force of wisdom which rests on insight into the Four Noble Truths and leads to the knowledge that liberates. The power which helps destroying all illusion and delusion, one of the 5 powers. This is also one of the 10 great powers obtainable by a bodhisattva. Though karma was simply defined as deeds, in reality karma implies the accumulation of all our experiences and deeds since the birth of mankind, and sins even before that time. This is called karma of previous existence. The action of this karma is called the power of karma. This power can be correctly explained by understanding the working of the subconscious mind. Even things that the human race experienced hundreds of thousands of years ago remain in the depth of our minds, as do the much stronger influences of the deeds and mental attitudes of our ancestors. The karma of previous existence that Buddhism teaches is still more profound, as it includes the karma that our own life has produced through the repetition of birth and death from the infinite past to the present. The power of karma is the strength of karma which produces good or evil fruit. Karmic power is the strength of karma. It is similar to a debt collector. There are many different strong and weak debt collectors. When we die, our consciousness will be taken by the strongest and greatest debt collector. Faculty of alertness or force of mindfulness, which destroys falsity. The faculty of alertness, mindfulness or force of mindfulness which is achieved through meditation, one of the 5 powers or bala, or one of the 7 Bidhyanga. According to Lama Khenchen Thrangu, in the practice of tranquility and insight, the power of mindfulness helps develop mental stability called the re-established settlement. This means that when one is meditating, thoughts will arise and one becomes aware that one has become distracted by them. One returns to the state of meditation. When there is a distraction that takes one away from resting in meditation, one is able to return to one state of meditation repeatedly. This power of mindfulness also develops the stage of mental stability, called intensified settlement, in which the mind that has been broadly focused is now focused very narrowly. The mind, for instance, is narrowly focused on an object. The purpose of this kind of meditation is to focus the mind on something very subtle. Power of contemplation is the ability to contemplate. According to Lama Khenchen Thrangu, in the practice of tranquility and insight, the power of contemplating or reflection, which means that one goes through reason and the logic of the teachings to complete the continuity of teachings. With this power one develops the stage of mental stability, which is called continued settlement. In this stage one can do it longer, say for 10 minutes. These first 2 stages of listening to the teachings and continually contemplating them are the first 2 powers and accomplish the first mental engagement, which is called disciplined or controlled engagement. Power of familiarization is the ability of habits. According to Lama Khenchen Thrangu, in the practice of tranquility and insight, the power of familiarization helps the mind naturally settle without the need for effort or discipline. Power of listening is the ability of listening. According to Lama Khenchen Thrangu, in the practice of tranquility and insight, the power of listening, or hearing, or receiving the teaching. This develops mental stability or samatha, which is called the settling or resting of the mind. Normally one's mind is distracted by thoughts, so one has to settle the mind a little in order not to be too distracted by external things. This is done through the power of listening. One hears the teachings of the Buddha, the teachings in the commentaries, and explanations given by the scholars and siddhas, Tibetan masters. Through these one understands what meditation is like. Hearing these, one is able to understand settling the mind and learns how to meditate. Marpa said that hearing and contemplating the teachings is like a torch that illuminates the darkness, because if one has this source of light, one can see where one is going, what is there, and what might be dangerous and harmful. In Tibet, there is also saying, if one does not have a lamp and walks in the dark, then one's head might connect with a pillar. In the same way, hearing and contemplating the teachings is like a lamp. It dispels the darkness, and one sees what it is one must do, and how one has to do it. Ordinary people are entirely enmeshed in heavy evil karma, and are full of all kinds of afflictions. Even though they may have some virtues as a result of cultivation, they find it difficult to sever even a fraction of their defilements and hindrances. The land of ultimate bliss, on the other hand, is extremely purely adorned, transcending the triple realm. How can such depraved common mortals hope to be reborn there? According to Masters Chai and Thien Phuc in the Pure Land Buddhism, there are two kinds of power: self-power and other power. Besides, there are three other kinds of powers: personal power, Tathagata power, and power of Buddha nature within. Bala Paramitas is the most significant paramita of the last four paramitas of the 10 paramitas, because it is their focus on their commitment to action. In Mahayana Buddhism, it is the 8th perfection, paramita, of the 10-fold list of perfections that a bodhisattva cultivates on the path to Buddhahood. It is developed on the 8th bodhisattva level, Bhumi. Besides, there is also a 10-fold list of qualities that in both Theravada Buddhism and Mahayana are said to be unique to fully awakened Buddhas, Samyak Sambuddha. 1. Power of knowledge of what is possible and what is impossible, or the power to distinguish right from wrong, Stenasthana Jnana Bala. Power of knowledge of retributions of actions, or the power of knowing karmic retributions throughout the 3 periods of time, Karma Vipaka Jnana Bala. 3. Power of knowledge of the concentrations, 8 stages of liberations, meditative absorptions, and attainments, Dhyana Vimaksa Samadhi Samapatti Jnana Bala. 4. Power of knowledge of the relative qualities of beings, or the power of complete knowledge of the powers and faculties of all beings, Indya Parapara Jnana Bala. 5. Power of knowledge of the various intentions of beings, or the power of complete knowledge of the desires or moral direction of every being, Nanadhamukti Jnana Bala. 6. Power of knowledge of the various states of beings, or the power of knowing the states of others, Nanadhatu Jnana Bala. 7. Power of knowledge of the ways in which beings go everywhere within cyclic existence and nirvana, Sarvatragamini Pratipajnana Bala. 8. Power of knowledge of former abodes, Purvanavasa Jnana Bala. 9. Power of knowledge of death and rebirth, Sayutyupapata Jnana Bala. 10. Power of knowledge that the defilements have been extinguished, Asrava Jnana Bala. In this very life, Zen Master Sayadaw Pandita confirmed that there are 4 powers which motivate successful practice. The first power is willingness. In practice as much as in worldly endeavors, willingness serves as a locomotive to pull the whole train. The second power is energy. Energy serves as fuel to operate the locomotive. The third power is the strength of the mind. Willingness and energy will provide the mind with necessary strength to travel on the path toward purification. The fourth power is wisdom. A vigorous and strong-minded person is quite sure of accomplishing whatever he or she desires. Willingness, energy, and strength of the mind motivate successful practice and bloom flower of wisdom. And wisdom in turn unfolds the way to purification and nirvana. According to the Mahayana Buddhism, there are 5 powers or faculties for any cultivator. The powers of 5 spiritual faculties which are developed through strengthening the 5 roots. These powers are power of faith, power of zeal, power of memory, power of meditation, and power of wisdom. Power of faith or force of belief which precludes all false belief. The power of zeal is the will to make the endeavor a force of active vigor, which leads to overcoming all obstacles. Power of memory is the faculty of alertness or mindfulness, or force of mindfulness which is achieved through meditation. Power of meditation, dhyana, is the ability to concentrate one's mind or force of concentration, which leads to eliminate all passions and desires. Power of wisdom, awareness, is the ability to maintain clear wisdom or force of wisdom which rests on insight into the 4 noble truths, and leads to the knowledge that liberates. Besides, there are 5 other powers, such as the power of meditation, the resulting supernatural powers, the adaptability or power of borrowing or revolving any required organ of sense or knowledge, by being above the second dhyana, the power of accomplishing a vow by a Buddha or Bodhisattva, and the august power of Dharma. According to the Sanjiti Sutta in the Long Discourses of the Buddha, there are 7 powers that help cultivators who wish to reach emancipation. They are power of faith, power of energy, power of moral shame, power of moral dread, power of mindfulness, power of concentration, and power of wisdom. Besides, there are 8 ksanti or powers of patient endurance, in the desire realm and the 2 realms above it. The 8 powers of endurance are used to seize false or perplexed views in Trilokya and acquire 8 kinds of prajna or wisdom. These 8 powers include 4 axioms or truth in the sense of desire, and another 4 axioms in the realm of form and formless. The 4 axioms or truth in the sense of desire include power of endurance of suffering, power of endurance of the cause of suffering, power of endurance of the elimination of suffering, and power of endurance of cultivation of the path of elimination of suffering. The 4 axioms or truth in the sense of the form and formless are the same as in the sense of desire. However, in the realm of form and formless, the above 4 axioms are called 4 kinds of powers of endurance. According to Bhikkhu Bodhi and Abhidhamma, there are 9 powers which include wholesome powers, unwholesome powers, either wholesome or unwholesome or indeterminate powers. Powers which are either wholesome or indeterminate include the power of faith, the power of mindfulness, the power of wisdom, the power of shame, and the power of fear of wrongdoing. Unwholesome powers include the power of shamelessness and the power of fearlessness of wrongdoing. Either wholesome or unwholesome or indeterminate include the power of energy and the power of concentration. There are 10 kinds of powers, according to the Flower Adornment Sutra, Chapter 38. Enlightening beings who abide by these can acquire the supreme power of Buddhas. These 10 powers include the power to comprehend the inherent essence of all things, the power to comprehend that all things are like phantoms, the power to comprehend that all things are like illusions, the power to comprehend that all things are Buddha's teachings, the power to have no attachments to anything at all, the power to clearly understand all things, the power of the respectful mind never abandoning spiritual teachers, the power to cause all roots of goodness to reach supreme knowledge, the power of deep faith in all Buddha's teachings without rejection, and the power of skill in preventing the will for omniscience from backsliding. Enlightening beings who abide by these can attain the Buddha's 10 powers of omniscience. First, power of the profound mind, not getting mixed up in worldly feelings. Second, power of overmastering profound mind, not giving up the ways of enlightenment. Third, power of means, consummating whatever they do. Fourth, power of knowledge, comprehending the activities of all minds. Fifth, power of vows, fulfilling all aspirations. Sixth, power of practice, continuing forever. Seventh, power of vehicle of liberation, able to produce all vehicles of liberation without abandoning the great universal vehicle. Eighth, power of miraculous transformations, showing all pure worlds and all Buddhas appearing in the worlds in each pore. Ninth, power of enlightenment, inspiring all sentient beings to seek enlightenment and become Buddhas without end. And 10th, power of turning the wheel of the teaching, explaining one expression of truth in accord with the faculties, temperaments, and inclinations of all sentient beings. Also, according to the Flower Adornment Sutra, Chapter 27, there are 10 other powers of great enlightening beings. The first power is the power of courageous strength, because they tame worldlings. Second, the power of energy, because they never backslide. Third, the power of non-attachment, because they get rid of defiling obsessions. Fourth, the power of silent calm, because they have no disputes about anything. Fifth, the power to oppose or conform, because they are free in the midst of all things. Sixth, the power of the nature of things, because they attain mastery of all truths. Seventh, the power of non-obstruction, because their knowledge and wisdom is immensely vast. Eighth, the power of fearlessness, because they can explain all truths. Ninth, the power of intellect, because they can hold all truths. And 10th, the power of revelation, because their knowledge and wisdom is boundless. According to Buddhist tradition, there are 10 great powers of a Buddha. First, complete knowledge of what is right or wrong in every condition, or the power of knowing from awakening to what is and what is not the case, knowing right and wrong, or the power to distinguish right from wrong. Second, complete knowledge of what is the karma of every being past, present and future, the power of knowing karmic retributions throughout the 3 periods of time, or knowing what karmic effects follow from which causes. Third, complete knowledge of all stages of dhyana liberation and samadhi, the power of knowing all dhyanas, liberations and samadhis, or knowing the various balanced states, 4 dhyanas, 8 states of liberation, 3 samadhi, etc. Fourth, complete knowledge of the powers and faculties of all beings, the power of knowing all faculties, whether superior or inferior, or knowing the superior or inferior makings of others. Fifth, complete knowledge of the desires or moral direction of every being, the power of knowing the various realms, or knowing the desires of others. Sixth, complete knowledge of actual condition of every individual, the power of knowing the various understanding or knowing the states of others. Seventh, complete knowledge of the direction and consequence of all laws, the power of knowing where all paths lead or knowing the destinations of others, either nirvana or hell. Eighth, complete knowledge of all causes of mortality and of good and evil in their reality, the power of knowing through the heavenly eye without obstruction or knowing the past. Ninth, complete knowledge of remote lives of all beings, the end of all beings in nirvana, the power of knowing previous lives without outflows or Buddha power, to know life and death, or all previous transmigrations. And 10th, complete knowledge of the destruction of all illusion of every kind, the power of knowing from having cut off all habits forever, or knowing how to end excesses. According to the Flower Adornment Sutra, Chapter 33, there are 10 kinds of might with enormous power of all Buddhas. They are supreme power, measureless power, grandiose power, awesome power, power difficult to acquire, undiminishing power, stable power, indestructible power, power inconceivable to any worldlings, and power that all living beings cannot shake. According to the Flower Adornment Sutra, Chapter 38, there are 10 kinds of unimpeded function relating to power. First, unimpeded function of power relating to sentient beings, teaching and taming them without abandoning them. Second, power relating to lands, manifesting untold adornment and arraying them. Third, power relating to phenomena, causing all bodies to enter the bodiless. Fourth, power relating to eons, cultivating practices unceasingly. Fifth, power of enlightenment, awakening those who are asleep. Sixth, power of action including all practices of enlightening beings. Seventh, power of Buddhas, liberating all sentient beings. Eighth, teacherless power, spontaneously awakening to all truth. Ninth, power of omniscience, attaining true enlightenment by omniscience. And 10th, power of great compassion, not abandoning sentient beings. Besides, there are also 13 powers of bodhisattvas of the Pure Land School. Power of the causes, power of dependent conditions, power of the mind, power of the will, for good for oneself and others, power of expedient means, power of the impermanence, power of joy, power of meditation, power of the mind of wisdom or perfect understanding, power of broad study or hearing, power of observing commandments, endurance, effort and meditation, power of right mindfulness and right contemplation, and the power of the true law, which can guide and save all sentient beings. Bodhisattvas also have 16 other great powers: will, mind, action, shame when doing evil, energy, firmness, wisdom, virtue, reasoning, personal appearance, physical powers, wealth, spiritual powers, magic, power of spreading the truth, and power of subduing demons. 238. Force of the mind. The force of the mind is also called the power of the mind. In Buddhist point of view, man's mind influences his body profoundly. If allowed to function viciously and indulge in unwholesome thoughts, mind can cause disaster, can even cause one's death. But on the other hand, a mind imbued with wholesome thoughts can cure a sick body. When the mind is concentrated on right thoughts with right effort and right understanding, the effects it can produce are immense. Thus, a mind with pure and wholesome thoughts leads to a healthy and relaxed life. Mind is such a subtle and intricate phenomenon that it is impossible to find two men of the same mind. Man's thoughts are translated into speech and action. Repetition of such speech and action gives rise to habits, and finally habits form character. Character is the result of man's mind-directed activities, and so the characters of human beings vary. Thus, to understand the real nature of life, one has to explore the innermost recesses of one's mind, which can only be accomplished by deep self-introspection, based on purity of conduct and meditation. The Buddhist point of view is that the mind or consciousness is the core of our existence. Of all forces, the force of mind is the most potent. It is the power by itself. All our psychological experiences, such as pain and pleasure, sorrow and happiness, good and evil, life and death, are not attributed to any external agency. They are the result of our own thoughts and their resultant actions. To train our force of mind means to try to guide our minds to follow the wholesome path and to stay away from the unwholesome path. According to Buddhism teachings, training the mind doesn't mean to gain union with any supreme beings, nor to bring about any mystical experiences, nor is it for any self-hypnosis. It is for gaining tranquility of mind and insight for the sole purpose of attaining unshakable deliverance of the mind. For a long period of time, we all talk about air, land and environment pollution. What about our mind pollution? Should we do something to prevent our minds from wandering far deep into the polluted courses? Yes, we should. We should equally protect and cleanse our mind. The Buddha once taught, "For a long time has man's mind been defiled by greed, hatred and delusion." Mental defilements make beings impure, and only mental cleansing can purify them. Devout Buddhists should always keep in mind that our daily life is an intense process of cleansing our own action, speech and thoughts. And we can only achieve this kind of cleansing through practice, not philosophical speculation or logical abstraction. Remember, the Buddha once said, "Though one conquers in battle 1,000 times 1,000 men, yet he is the greatest conqueror who conquers himself." This is nothing other than training of your own monkey mind or self-mastery or control your own mind. It means mastering our own mental contents, our emotions, likes and dislikes, and so forth. Thus, self-mastery is the greatest empire a man can aspire unto, and to be subject to our own passions is the most grievous slavery. 239. The Triple World. According to the long discourses of the Buddha, Sanjiti Sutra, the realms of births and deaths, divided into 3 realms of existence. They are the realm of desire, the realm of form, and the formless realm. In the Lankavatara Sutra, the Buddha taught, "The Bodhisattva Mahasattva sees that the triple world is no more than the creation of the Siddha, Manas, and Manovijnana, that it is brought forth by falsely discriminating one's own mind, that there are no signs of an external world where the principle of multiplicity rules, and finally that the triple world is just one's own mind." The realm of sensuous desire of sex and food. The realm of desire, of sensuous gratification. This world in the 6 Devalokas includes the 6 heavens, the human world, and then hells, any world in which the elements of desire have not been suppressed. The world of desire. The region of the wishes. This is the lowest of the 3 realms of existence, the other 2 being Rupa Dhatu and Arupa Dhatu. It is also the realm in which humans live, and it receives its name because desire is the dominant motivation for its inhabitants. All beings in this realm possess 5 aggregates or pancaskandha. Realm of desire or sensual realm, human world, desire world, or passion world, one of the 3 realms. Realm of desire is a realm where there exists all kinds of desires. This is the realm of sensuous desire of sex and food. Form is used more in the sense of substance or something occupying space, which will resist replacement by another form. So it has extension, it is limited and conditioned. It comes into existence when conditions are matured, as Buddhists would say, and staying as long as they continue, pass away. Form is impermanent, dependent, illusory, relative, antithetical, and distinctive. The realm of form or matter, a material world. It is above the lust world. It is represented in the Brahmalokas, 2 Thien. Form is used more in the sense of substance or something occupying space, which will resist replacement by another form. So it has extension, it is limited and conditioned. It comes into existence when conditions are matured, as Buddhists would say, and staying as long as they continue, pass away. Form is impermanent, dependent, illusory, relative, antithetical, and distinctive. The realm of form. Being in the world of form have material form, but it is above the lust world, free from desires. It is represented in the fourth heavens or Brahmalokas, 2 Thien. This realm is considered to be higher than the one in which human beings live, i.e., the desire realm or Kama Dhatu. According to Buddhism, the four form realm meditations have the form heaven as their objective. The realm of no beauty, non-form. The formless or immaterial realm of pure spirit. There are no bodies, palaces, things. Where the mind dwells in mystic contemplation. Its extent is indefinable in the four empty regions of spaces, 2 Kongzu. This is the realm of the higher deities. This is one of the three worlds, Triloka, of traditional Buddhist cosmology. This is one of the three worlds, Triloka, of traditional Buddhist cosmology. Beings are born into this realm as a result of successful cultivation of meditative states called the four formless absorptions, Arupya Samapatti, each of which corresponds to a heaven realm within the formless realm. The formless realm of pure spirit, where there are no bodies, places, things. Its extent is undefinable in the four empty regions, 2 Kongzu. In the formless realm there is no physicality, and the beings who reside there have lives free from pain, anxiety, or afflictions, but this is seen as unsatisfactory from a Buddhist standpoint, because when their lives in the formless realm end, they are again reborn in the lower levels of cyclic existence. The heavens without form, immaterial, consisting only of mind and contemplation. According to Buddhism, formless realm meditations have the formless heaven as their objective. It is a well-known fact that in the Buddha's career, he practiced the formless dhyana with Arata Kalama, an ascetic who attained the mental state of boundless consciousness, and Adraka Ramaputra, another ascetic who reached the highest stage of being neither conscious nor unconscious. Finally, the would-be Buddha surpassed his teachers and, having found no more to learn from them, went his own way in spite of their eager requests to stay and train their respective pupils. 240. The triple worlds as a burning house. The three realms of desire, form and formless realms scorching sentient beings, such sufferings are limitless. The triple worlds as a burning house. In the Lotus Sutra, the Buddha taught, the three worlds are unsafe, much like a house on fire. Suffering is all-pervasive, truly deserving to be terrified and frightened. Sentient beings in the three worlds, especially those in the Saha world, are hampered constantly by afflictions and sufferings. Living crowded in the suffering conditions of this Saha world is similar to living in a house on fire, full of dangers. Life can end at any moment. Even so, everyone is completely oblivious and unaware, but continues to live leisurely, chasing after the five desires, as if nothing was happening. Sincere Buddhists should always remember this, and should always diligently cultivate to seek liberation. The burning house, one of the 7 parables in the Wonder Lotus Sutra, from which the owner tempts his heedless children by the device of the 3 kinds of carts, goat, deer and bullock, especially the white bullock cart. The 3 realms of desire, form and formless realms scorching sentient beings, such sufferings are limitless. The triple worlds as a burning house. In the Lotus Sutra, the Buddha taught, the 3 worlds are unsafe, much like a house on fire. Suffering is all-pervasive, truly deserving to be terrified and frightened. Sentient beings in the 3 worlds, especially those in the Saha world, are hampered constantly by afflictions and sufferings. Living crowded in the suffering conditions of this Saha world is similar to living in a house on fire, full of dangers. Life can end at any moment. Even so, everyone is completely oblivious and unaware, but continues to live leisurely, chasing after the 5 desires, as if nothing was happening. Sincere Buddhists should always remember this, and should always diligently cultivate to seek liberation. Societies are filled with robberies, murders, rapes, frauds, deceptions, etc. All these continue without any foreseeable end. To speak of our individual mind, everyone is burdened with worries, sadness, depression, and anxieties, etc. In the Dharmapada Sutra, verse 146, the Buddha taught, "How can there be laughter, how can there be joy, when the whole world is burnt by the flames of passions and ignorance? When you are living in darkness, why wouldn't you seek the light?" 241. Death is certain and natural. According to the story of Kissa Gautami in the Agama Sutra, the Buddha taught that death is certain and natural. The story says, Kissa Gautami's son died. She loved him dearly, so she could not accept his death. So she carried the corpse and went from house to find medicine. Of course nobody could help her. Finally she went to the Buddha. The Buddha said, "If you can bring me a mustard seed, I can help you." The mustard seed, however, must come from a house in which no one in the family has ever died. Kissa Gautami visited every house in the city. Everywhere people took pity on her and offered her mustard seeds. But when she asked, "Has anyone in your family ever died?" the answer was always the same. Yes. Sometimes it was a parent or a brother or a sister that had died. In other family, it was like her, a child. She was very sad and returned to the Buddha empty-handed. The Buddha asked her to reflect on what people had told her. Slowly she realized that death was certain and natural, and that all things are impermanent. She felt comforted. Later she returned to the Buddha and became one of his disciples. 242. 9 types of untimely death. According to the Medicine Buddha Sutra, Salvation Bodhisattva told Ananda that the Tathagatas mentioned countless forms of untimely death. However, there are 9 major forms of untimely death. Some sentient beings contract a minor illness which goes untreated for lack of a physician or medicine, or else, even though there is a physician, he prescribes the wrong medicine, causing premature death. Or, the patients, believing the false pronouncements of earthly demons, heretics or practitioners of black magic, may panic, unable to calm their minds. They may then engage in divination or perform animal sacrifices in order to propitiate the spirits, praying for blessings and longevity, all in vain. Through ignorance, confusion and reliance on wrong, inverted views, they meet with untimely death and sink into the hells, with no end in sight. Second, executed by royal decree. Third, losing one's vitality to the demons through hunting, gambling, debauchery, drunkenness or extreme dissipation. The fourth untimely death is the death by fire. The fifth untimely death is the death by drowning. The sixth untimely death is being devoured by wild animals. The seventh untimely death is falling off a mountain or a cliff. The eighth untimely death is the death by poison, incantations, evil mantras or demons raised from the death. The ninth untimely death is the death from hunger or thirst, for lack of food and water. 243. Rebirth. The Buddha taught, "Not in the sky, nor in mid-ocean, nor in a mountain cave, nowhere on earth where one can escape from death." Dharmapada 128. Rebirth is the result of karma. The doctrine of rebirth is upheld by all traditional schools of Buddhism. According to this doctrine, sentient beings, sattva, are caught up in a continuous round of birth, death, and rebirth, and their present state of existence is conditioned by their past volitional actions or karma. In Buddhist belief, there is no transmigration of soul or any substance from one body to another. According to the Buddha, rebirth takes place instantaneously after death, consciousness having the nature of arising and passing away unceasingly. There is no interval between death and the next birth. One moment we are dead and the next moment rebirth takes place, either in the human plane, the celestial plane, or the hell plane, the hungry ghost plane, the animal plane and the demon plane. What really happens is that the last active Thought, jhana, process of dying man releases certain forces which vary in accordance with the purity of the 5 thought moments in that series. These forces are called karma vega or karmic energy, which attracts itself to a material layer produced by parents in the mother's womb. The material aggregates in this germinal compound must possess such characteristics as are suitable for the reception of that particular type of karmic energy. Attraction in this manner of various types of physical aggregates produced by parents occurs through the operation of death and gives a favorable rebirth to the dying man. An unwholesome thought gives an unfavorable rebirth. Each and every type of sentient being will have different appearance, whether it be beautiful or ugly, superior or inferior. This is determined and is manifested based solely on the various karmas sentient beings created while alive with their antecedent bodies. Since the cycle inevitably involves suffering and death, Buddhism assumes that escape from it is a desirable goal. This is achieved by engaging in cultivating oneself, and the most important of which is meditation. The doctrine of rebirth has become problematic for many contemporary Buddhists, particularly for converts to Buddhism in Western countries, whose culture does not accept the notion of rebirth. However, this doctrine is extremely important in Buddhism, for all sincere attitudes of cultivation originated from the thorough understanding of this doctrine. The original word for reincarnation is translated as transmigration, the passing away from one body to be reborn in another body. Where the being will be reborn depends on his accumulated good or bad karma. The belief that living beings, including man, have a series of bodily lives, only ceasing when they no longer base their happiness on any of the objects of the world. This come about when the Buddha nature is found. This belief is very common to all Buddhists. Rebirth is the recombination of mind and matter. After passing away of the physical body or the matter, the mental forces or the mind recombine and assume a new combination in a different material form and condition in another existence. Rebirth is the result of karma. In Buddhist belief, there is no transmigration of soul or any substance from one body to another. What really happens is that the last active thought, jhana, process of dying man, releases certain forces which vary in accordance with the purity of the 5 thought moments in that series. These forces are called karma vega or karmic energy, which attracts itself to a material layer produced by parents in the mother's womb. The material aggregates in this germinal compound must possess such characteristics as are suitable for the reception of that particular type of karmic energy. Attraction in this manner of various types of physical aggregates produced by parents occurs through the operation of death and gives a favorable rebirth to the dying man. An unwholesome thought gives an unfavorable rebirth. Each and every type of sentient being will have different appearance, whether it be beautiful or ugly, superior or inferior. This is determined and is manifested based solely on the various karmas sentient beings created while alive with their antecedent bodies. According to the Sanjiti Sutta in the long discourses of the Buddha, there are 4 forms of birth by which the beings of the 6 modes of existence can be reborn. All births take place in 4 forms, and in each case, causing a sentient being to enter one of the 6 gaudy or paths of transmigration. The first type of birth is birth from the womb, or uterine birth or womb-born, as with mammalia. This is one of the 4 modes of yoni. Uterine birth is a form of viviparous birth, as with mammalia. Before the differentiation of the sexes, birth is supposed to have been transformation. In Buddhism, the term is also applied to beings enclosed in unopened lotuses in paradise, who have not had faith in the Amitabha but trusted to their own strength to attain salvation. There they remain for proportionate periods, happy, but without the presence of the Buddha, or Bodhisattvas, or the sacred host, and do not hear their teaching. The condition is also known as the womb place. The second type of birth is egg-born, or birth from eggs, as with birds. Egg-born, or birth from eggs. Oviparous, as is the case with chicken, goose, birds, etc. The third type of birth is the moisture or water-born, as with worms and fishes. Moist and wet conditions born or spawn-born, or birth from moisture, wetness. Moisture or water-born, as is the case with worms, fishes, shrimps, etc. The fourth type of birth is the metamorphic, as with moths from the chrysalis. Birth by transformation, as in the case of deities and superior beings of the Pure Lands. It is said that such beings, after the end of their previous lifetime, suddenly appear in this fashion due to their karma, without the help of parents or any other intermediary agency. Metamorphosis, as is the case with maggot, transforms into fly, moths from the chrysalis, caterpillar becomes butterfly, or deities and superior beings of the Pure Land. It is said that such beings, after the end of their previous lifetime, suddenly appear in this fashion due to their karma, without the help of parents or any other intermediary agency. One of the four forms of birth. Any form of existence by which required form is attained in an instant in full maturity. By this birth, bodhisattvas residing in two-seated can appear on earth any time at will to save beings. The Dhyani Buddhas and bodhisattvas are also of such miraculous origin. Form of metamorphic birth, as with moths, asuras, hungry ghosts, and inhabitants of hells, and the Pure Lands, or first newly evolved world. One of the four forms of birth, which is by transforming, without parentage, attained in an instant in full maturity. According to tantric traditions, through his deep insight into how things exist, the Buddha observed that disturbing attitudes and karma cause our minds to take one rebirth after another. At the time of death, ordinary beings crave and grasp for bodies and at the same time afraid to lose bodies and separated from everything around us. When it becomes obvious that we're departing from this body and life, we grasp for another body. The two attachments of craving and grasping act as the cooperative conditions for karmic imprints to ripen at the time of death. As these karmic imprints start to mature, our minds are attracted to other bodies, and we seek to take rebirth in them. In the case of a human rebirth, after passing through an immediate state between one life and the next, our consciousness then enters a fertilized egg. We develop the aggregates of a human being, a human body and mind. In this new rebirth, we perceive people and things through our senses. Experiencing pleasant or unpleasant feelings from them, we generate attachment, aversion or indifference. These motivations cause us to act, and our actions leave more imprints on our mind streams, and at the time of death, we're again propelled to take rebirth in another body. This cycle of rebirth is called samsara. Samsara isn't a place, nor is it a world. It is a cyclic existence. It is our situation of taking one rebirth after another under the control of disturbing attitudes and karmic actions. Thus, our own energy causes us to be reborn who we are, in our present circumstance. However, karma isn't cast in concrete, and our lives aren't predetermined. Which karmic imprints ripen depends on our environment and our state of mind. In addition, we have the ability to control our actions and thus shape our future. This is the law of karma, which is the functioning of cause and effect within our mind streams. Whether we experience pain or pleasure depends on what we have done in the past. Our previous actions or karma were motivated by our minds. In this way, our minds are the principal creator of our experience. The idea of rebirth is not unique to Buddhism, but it plays an important role in both its doctrine and its practice. The Buddha himself is said to have attained nirvana after a long series of rebirths, and on the night of his enlightenment, according to the Pali Canon, he remembered more than 100,000 previous lives. All beings are continuously reborn in a seemingly endless cycle of birth and death. Just as a person's birth is not the beginning of his or her fortunes, so death is not the end, because all beings wander through successive incarnations. Gods can become humans, humans can become gods, animals are hell beings, animals can become humans or hungry ghosts, and so on. Advanced beings, such as bodhisattvas, are able to avoid disadvantageous rebirths, but only Buddhas and arhats are fully liberated from samsara, because after their last lives, they will never again be reborn. The countless sentient beings who pass through samsara are accommodated in successive world systems as numerous as there are sands on the banks of the Ganges. Each world system is divided into 3 spheres of existence. The crudest of these spheres is the world of sense desire, governed by the 5 senses and inhabited by lesser gods or devas, humans, animals and the various hell beings. More refined is the world of pure form, where the greater gods dwell. This sphere corresponds to the four meditational absorptions, and its beings are without the sense of touch, taste and smell. The most refined samsaric sphere of existence is the formless world, a purely mental realm, devoid of physical. Accomplished great gods are born here, but even these rebirths end, because although these gods have reached summits of existence, they have not attained nirvana. Each of the world systems lasts incalculable eons. The Samyutta Nikaya of the Pali Canon, part of the Buddha's discourses, explained that if a mountain of granite, 7 miles high, were stroked every century with a piece of silk, it would be worn away before such a great eon would pass. Not every form of Buddhism subscribes to this exact cosmology, but all agree that rebirth is not a haphazard process. Just as a physical object is governed by a causal physical law, so a person's spiritual development is governed by a natural law, karma, which is inherent in the cosmos. According to the law of karma, every action or deed ripens as a certain of result. This law in itself is neither normal nor retributive, but merely a feature of the constituent elements of samsara. Without karma, any talk of enlightenment would be senseless. One could not strive toward enlightenment if there were no way to affect one's development. Karma operates on intentional deeds and creates residual impressions or tendencies that bear fruit or ripen with time. Its effects are not limited to the present life, but unfold over longer periods by creating favorable or unfavorable rebirths. In the Milinda Panha, around the 1st or 2nd century AD, a dialogue between the monk Nagasena and King Milinda. Nagasena explains that deeds are linked to their outcomes in the same way that a mango tree seed is linked to its fruit. A man who steals from another man's tree deserves a beating, even though he did not take the seed of the tree, because the stolen fruit could not have grown if the seed had not been planted. The outcome of karma can be affected by good or bad deeds, which bring about favorable or unfavorable results. This gives rise to the psychological and ethical dimensions of karma. Every intentional deed is accompanied by a different kind of state of mind. If these states of mind are rooted in empathy, wisdom and lack of greed, then they are considered morally unwholesome and can lead to bad karma. For example, although generosity is a morally wholesome deed, it is the attitude behind the deed, be it mere friendliness or deep compassion, that determines the karmic seed which will generate the deed's fruit. Ultimately, the goal of Buddhism is to teach sentient beings gradually to extinguish the fires of hatred, delusion and greed, thereby ceasing to generate bad karmic seeds, and finally, in realizing nirvana, to blow them out completely. Nirvana literally means blow out. We take rebirth according to our karma. If we have led a good life, we will generally get a good rebirth. A wholesome state of mind at the death moment is likely to be enabling a good rebirth to come about. If we have led an evil life, then a bad rebirth is more than likely to come about. But whenever we may be reborn, we will not be there forever. On the expiry of our lifespan, we die and undergo new rebirth. Deaths and rebirths keep repeating forever in a cycle that we call the cycle of birth and death. Karma underscores the importance of human life because most good or bad deeds are performed in the human realm. Gods enjoy the fruit of their previous good deeds, while those reborn in the subhuman realms have little scope for making virtuous deeds. As karma runs its course, these less fortunate beings may eventually obtain a more advantageous rebirth. 244. Rebirth consciousness. In Buddhism, rebirth consciousness is not a self or a soul, or an ego entity that experiences the fruits of good and evil deeds. Consciousness is generated by conditions. Apart from condition, there is no arising of consciousness. We call names such as birth, death, thought processes, and so on, to a stream of consciousness. There are only thought moments. The last thought moment we call death, and the first thought moment we call birth. Thus, birth and death occur in this stream of consciousness, which is only a series of ever-continuing thought moments. So long as man is attached to existence through his ignorance, craving and clinging, to him death is not the final end. He will continue his journey of whirling round the wheel of existence. This is the endless play of cause and effect or action and reaction, kept in perpetual motion by karma, concealed by ignorance, propelled by craving or thirst. As karma, or action, is of our own making, we have the power to break this endless chain. It is through the eradication of ignorance and of this driving force, craving, this thirst for existence, this will to live, that the cycle of existence ceases. In the Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha explained, "How is there not re-becoming in the future? By the cessation of ignorance, by the arising of knowledge, by the cessation of craving, there is thus no re-becoming in the future." In the Dhammapada 153-154, on attaining enlightenment, the Buddha spoke these joyful words. Repeated births are each a torment. Seeking but not finding the house builder, I wandered through many a samsaric birth. O house builder, thou art seen, thou wilt not rebuild the house. All thy rafters have been shattered, demolished has thy ridge pole been. My mind has won the unconditioned, nirvana. The extinction of craving is achieved. Fruit of Arat. 245. The wheel of becoming. A Sanskrit term which means the wheel of becoming. A pictorial representation of the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, which is images of the 6 destinies, gati, into which sentient beings may be born. Gods, demigods, humans, animals, hungry ghosts, and hell beings. In Tibetan versions of this motif, Yama, the god of death, is often shown with fangs hanging over a wheel divided into 6 parts. Yama symbolizes the ever-present reality of death, the inevitable end of all beings caught up in cyclic existence, samsara. In the center of the wheel one commonly finds animals representing the forces that perpetuate the cycle. 1. A pig, which represents ignorance, 2. A cock, which represents desire, and 3. A snake, which represents hatred or aversion. The outer rim of the wheel commonly contains representations of the 12 links of the cycle of dependent arising, pratitya samutpada. Bhava is a state of existence, being, or the process of existence. Sometimes translated as Dharma. Sometimes translated as Lakshana. Every kind of being in the 3 worlds, in the desire, desireless and formless. The 10th link in the chain of conditioned arising. In Mahayana, bhava, becoming, is brought into opposition with nothingness, shunyata. Here, bhava is anything that can be relied upon in the visible or invisible realm. It means any state which lies between birth and death, or beginning and end. According to the path of purification, there are 2 kinds of becoming. Karma process becoming and rebirth process becoming. There are 3 other kinds of existence, or 3 states of mortal existence in the Trilikya. They are qualities, good, bad, length, shortness, phenomenal things, things which exist only in name, i.e. all things are combinations of other things and are empirically named, and real things, the false view of Hinayana that things, or elements of which they are made, are real. The nominal or imaginary, understood as facts and not as illusions. According to the connected discourses of the Buddha, chapter Asanavago, searches, there are 3 kinds of existence. They are sense sphere existence, existence in the realm of desire, form sphere existence, existence in the realm of form, and formless sphere existence, existence in the realm of formlessness or immaterial realm. Besides, there are 3 other kinds of becoming. They are the present existence or the present body and mind, the intermediate state of existence, and existence in the future state. According to the mind-only school, according to the Buddhist idea, all things are born from mind and consist of mind only. Especially in the idealistic theory, what we generally call existence proceeds from consciousness. According to the mind-only school, everything that exists is classified as to the nature of its origin into 3 species. First, false existence, parikalpita laksana, also called character of soul imagination. Those of false existence which are at the same time bereft of an original substance, a dravya, just like a ghost that exists merely in one's imagination but not in reality. Second, temporary or transitory existence, paratantra laksana, also called character of dependence upon others. those of temporary or transitory existence, having no permanent character, asvabhava, like a house that is built by timbers, stones, tiles, etc. It exists only by a combination of causes or causal combination, and is not self-existent. It has no permanent reality. Third, true existence, parinaspanalaksana, also called character of ultimate reality. Those of true existence, that is to say, non-existent in the highest sense of the word, bereft of all false and temporary nature, alaksana. This is, in truth, not non-existence but transcendental existence. This is also called the substratum of all, and can be known only by a person of supreme knowledge. It represents merely the remainder after the elimination of the first two. Rebirth is becoming since it becomes. Rebirth process becoming briefly is aggregates generated by karma. It is of 9 kinds. First, sense desire becoming, the kind of becoming possessed of sense desires. Second, fine material becoming, the kind of becoming possessed of fine material. Third, immaterial becoming, the kind of becoming possessed of immaterial. Fourth, percipient becoming, the kind of becoming possessed of perception. Fifth, non-percipient becoming, the kind of becoming possessed of non-perception. Sixth, neither percipient nor non-percipient becoming, the kind of becoming possessed of neither perception nor non-perception. Seventh, one constituent becoming, the kind of becoming possessed of one constituent. Eighth, four constituent becoming, the kind of becoming possessed of four constituents. Ninth, five constituent becoming, the kind of becoming possessed of five constituents. 246. 6 last warm spots represent the place of reincarnation. Buddhism teaches that man is not surely reborn upon our earth. As the result of good deeds, a man may attain certain advantages of better place, body, environment and education in his next life. In other words, the world upon which a person is to have his next birth is decided by the preponderance of the individual's merit and demerit or the individual's karma power. The Buddha taught in the Agama Sutra that once death arrives, the body will turn cold because the great fire has already burned out. Even so, after all breathing has ceased, in the body there is one last warm spot before the entire body turns cold. The last warm spot represents the place where the consciousness of the deceased escaped the mortal body, and these warm spots may be at the crown of the head, the eye, the chest, the stomach, the knee, or the soles of both feet. Sometimes this warm spot will remain for as long as 4 to 5 hours after the person has died. There are 6 places in the body that represent the 6 paths of rebirth. In the Agama Sutra, the Buddha's teachings, there are 6 places in the body that represent the 6 paths of rebirth. The first spot is the crown, warm spot, which stands for sainthood or core enlightenment. When the body of the deceased, a person who has died for 3 or 4 hours, is completely cold except for the crown, that means the spirit of the dead has left the body by the way of the crown, and the person has been reborn in the realm of saint. In other words, if the spirit left the body through the crown of the head, we are absolutely certain the spirit of the person who has just died has attained liberation to the enlightened realm. The second spot is the eyes and forehead, which represents the rebirth in the celestial realm. When the person's eyes and forehead are the last to remain warm, the spirit of that person has been reborn in the celestial, heaven, realms. The third spot is the heart, which stands for the rebirth in the human realm. When the person's heart is the last to remain warm, the spirit of that person has been reborn back among human beings. The fourth spot is the belly, which stands for the rebirth in the realm of the hungry ghosts. When the person's belly is the last to remain warm, the spirit of that person has been reborn among hungry ghosts. The fifth spot is the knee, which stands for the rebirth in the realm of animals. When the person's knees are the last to remain warm, the spirit of that person has been reborn among animals. The sixth spot is the sole of feet, which stands for the rebirth in the realm of hells. When the person's soles of the feet are the last to remain warm, the spirit of that person has been fallen in the hell. According to Great Master Yin Kuang, when we take our last breath, our spirits or alaya consciousness will leave the body. Thus the area of the body that remains warm is where the spirit left the body. The first spot is the crown, warm spot, stands for sainthood or core enlightenment. When the body of the deceased, a person who has died for 3 or 4 hours, is completely cold except for the crown, that means the spirit of the dead has left the body by the way of the crown, and the person has been reborn in the realm of saint. In other words, if the spirit left the body through the crown of the head, we are absolutely certain the spirit of the person who has just died has attained liberation to the enlightened realm, i.e., the Western Pure Land of the Amitabha Buddha. The second spot is the eyes for celestials. When the person's eyes and forehead are the last to remain warm, the spirit of that person has been reborn in the celestial, heaven, realms. When all other parts of the body have turned cold but the eyes and forehead remain warm, then the spirit of the person who has just died left the body through the eyes. In this case, the person will be born in heaven. When nearing death, people who will be born in heaven will exhibit the following signs and characteristics. Having compassion for others, give rise to a wholesome mind, often happy and contented, proper thoughts are apparent, no longer having greed and attachment for money, possessions, spouse, children, etc. The eyes are clear and shiny, eyes staring into space, smiling, ears hearing heavenly music or eyes seeing heavenly landscape, body does not emit odor, nose bridge remains straight without crookedness, and mind does not exhibit hate and resentment. The third spot is the heart for human. When the person's heart is the last to remain warm, the spirit of that person has been reborn back among human beings. When other parts of the body have turned cold, but the chest and heart remain as the last warm spot, the spirit of that dead person will return to the human realm. When nearing death, those who will be reborn to the human realm will exhibit the following signs and characteristics. Body is not burdened with major illnesses, give rise to good and wholesome thoughts, have peace and happiness, enjoy practicing meritorious and virtuous deeds, there is little boasting, thinking of mother, father, spouse, and children. With regard to good and evil, their minds are capable of discriminating clearly, give rise to pure faith, requesting the triple jewels to be present to take refuge. Sons and daughters are near and adore them just as before without showing indifference. Ears are fond of hearing the names of brothers, sisters, and friends. Remaining dignified and having integrity instead of being petty and sycophant, clearly recognize helping friends. When seeing family members take care of them, they are happy and contented. Advise and give responsibilities to loved ones before making the last goodbye. The fourth spot is the belly for the hungry ghosts. When the person's belly is the last to remain warm, the spirit of that person has been reborn among hungry ghosts. The fifth spot is the knee for animals. When the person's knees are the last to remain warm, the spirit of that person has been reborn among animals. The sixth spot is the sole of feet for hells. When the person's soles of the feet are the last to remain warm, the spirit of that person has been fallen in the hell. 247. 8 kinds of rebirth due to generosity. According to the Sanjiti Sutta in the Long Discourses of the Buddha, there are 8 kinds of rebirth due to generosity. First, the mental aspiration of a moral person, which is to wish to become a rich Kshatriya, Brahmin or householder, is effective through its purity. Here, someone gives an ascetic or Brahmin food, drink, clothes, transport, garlands, perfumes and ointments, sleeping accommodation, a dwelling, or lights, and he hopes to receive a return for his gifts. He sees a rich Kshatriya or Brahmin or householder living in full enjoyment of the pleasures of the 5 senses, and he thinks, if only when I die I may be reborn as one of these rich people. He sets his heart on this thought, fixes it and develops it. And this thought, being launched at such a low level, and not developed to a higher level, leads to rebirth right there. But I say this of a moral person, not of an immoral one. The mental aspiration of a moral person to become a rich Kshatriya, Brahmin, or householder, is effective through its purity. Second, the aspiration of a moral person, which is to wish to become a diva in the realm of the 4 great kings, is effective through its purity. Here a person who gives such gifts and, having heard that the divas in the realm of the 4 great kings live long, are good-looking and lead a happy life, he thinks, "If only I could be reborn there." Or he simply aspires to rebirth in the heavens, the four great kings. The last part is similar to the last part of 8 kinds of rebirth, due to generosity. 1. Third, the aspiration of a moral person, which is to wish to be reborn as one of the devas in the heavens of the 33 God, same as in 1. Fourth, the aspiration of a moral person, which is to wish to become one of the devas in the heavens of the Yama devas, same as in 1. Fifth, the aspiration of a moral person, which is to become one of the devas in the heavens of the Tusita devas, same as in 1. Sixth, the aspiration of a moral person, which is to become one of the devas in the heavens of the Nimanrati devas, same as in 1. Seventh, the aspiration of a moral person, which is to become one of the devas in the heavens of the Paramita Vasavati devas, same as in 1. Eighth, the aspiration of a moral person, which is to be rebirth in the world of Brahma, same as in 1. 248. Antecedent existence body. Antecedent means before, the origin, or the beginning, etc. Existence means it is inhabited currently, and used presently, etc. The antecedent existence body is the present form body, physical or non-physical, created from various karmas and predestined affinities that each sentient being accumulated in the past. In turn, this antecedent existence body will pass through these 4 stages of impermanence: birth, old age, sickness, and death. The antecedent existence body will remain only for a definite period of time, but it will not be permanent or eternal, because there is birth, then there must be death. There is absolutely no being of the 4 types of sentient beings with an antecedent existence body can overcome this inevitable fate of these 4 unchanging laws of impermanence, including the heavenly fairies. 249. Intermediate existence body. The intermediate stage between death and rebirth. It's the 49-day-long process, death and rebirth. If there is an antecedent existence body, then, naturally, there has to be an intermediate existence body and an after existence body. Intermediate means middle, or in between 2 lives of the present and future. Existence means present, or currently inhabiting. Because the karmic retribution are concrete and not emptiness. Thus, because of the genuineness of karmic consequences, it is called existence. The intermediate existence body means the body to be inhabited after the antecedent body. In other words, once a sentient being's destiny ends, he or she must abandon the antecedent existence body. Once this happens, that body will decay, the 5 aggregates will separate, and that person's spirit will leave the antecedent existence body. And before inhabiting the after existence body or the body of the future life, the spirit of this individual will exist in a period where it will take on a new realm. During this time, the spirit will enter a transitional period as they immediately exist as another entity or inhabit a different body called intermediate existence body. According to Venerable Thich Quang in the Philosophical Conversations with Buddhist Followers, the intermediate existence body is formed by 5 infinitesimally small aggregates, therefore, it is also called the intermediate skandha body. The intermediate skandha body has many different characteristics, but, in general, there are 2 types of form appearances. One is having a beautiful form appearance, the other is having a dreadful form appearance. Before the intermediate skandha body assumes the after existence body or the future body, it must pass through a period of 49 days in order to determine each individual's karmic retribution, i.e., Judgment Day. This is to assume responsibilities for the various karmic activities, whether wholesome or unwholesome, taken when the individual still had the antecedent existence body or when still alive. The Ksitigarbha Sutra taught, "The great demon of impermanence makes no appointments, yet it comes. The spirits of the dead are confused and delirious, not knowing whether meritorious or transgression." For 49 days, their existence is like darkness and deafness, not knowing what will happen, or they may be at various underworld courthouses to go on trials for their karma. Once decisions are made, they will follow their karma to reap the karmic retributions. The antecedent existence body or the skandha existence body is not reborn, reincarnated into another life, but must pass through a period of 49 days of determination of karmic retributions or transition between life. In other words, right after the spirit escapes from the antecedent existence body and becomes the intermediate existence body, it is led by that individual's karmic effect, depending on the karmic retributions, various merits and transgressions created when that being still had the antecedent existence body, to get reborn into the next life in the 6 realms of existence. Thus, the Ksitigarbha Sutra taught, supposing once a person dies, within the first 49 days, for that person's benefit, loved ones are willing to cultivate and form many meritorious and wholesome practices, then it is possible to free completely that spirit of the dead from the various evil paths to be reborn in heaven, or in the human realm, to reap the various luxuries and happiness. Not only that, but the currently living loved ones will also benefit greatly. Family and friends know when alive, their loved one who died recently had created many unwholesome karmic deeds and will have to endure the karmic retributions of hell. Through love and compassion for their loved one, they follow the Buddha's teachings, take the person's place to practice various virtuous, meritorious, and wholesome deeds, such as make donations, charity work, free trapped animals, chant sutras, recite Buddha's name and mantras, etc. Thereafter, use the merits and virtues to dedicate and pray for the deceased spirit, when that spirit still exists with the intermediate existence body and has not yet been reborn or reincarnated to another life. If family and friends are able to do all these, the deceased's intermediate skandha body will be able to eradicate and overcome his or her transgressions to varying degrees. That person will be able to abandon the evil paths and be reborn to heaven or human realms to enjoy the various happiness and luxuries. As usual, the intermediate existence body must go through 7 cycles with 7 days in each cycle. Only thereafter, the spirit is able to receive the future body. However, there are special situations where the intermediate body does not need to go through that ordinary transitional period. These sentient beings, after leaving their antecedent bodies, their spirits will immediately be liberated to the appropriate heavens accordingly to their merits and spiritual achievements, or be condemned to hell immediately, without having to pass through the ordinary transitional period of 49 days of the intermediate skandha body. When the sentient beings were alive with antecedent body, they created an extraordinary amount of wholesome karma, planted the fruit of the 10 wholesome deeds to the highest level with regard to the various heavens of desires, form, and formlessness. When the sentient beings were alive with antecedent body, they created an extraordinary amount of unwholesome karma, the most evil and wicked deeds, such as guilty of violating the 4 offenses, 5 betrayals, 10 evils, belonging to the great Avicii hell. Besides, there is one more type of sentient beings who are beyond limits. They also do not need to go through the transition period, do not experience having the intermediate body, nor are they a part of the 3 worlds and the 6 realms of existences. These sentient beings are those when alive with the antecedent body, follow the Buddha Dharma to cultivate and practice Buddha recitation, by developing faith and vow to gain rebirth to the ultimate bliss world. After abandoning the antecedent body, their spirits will transcend through the 3 worlds, relying on the rescuing vow powers of the bodhisattvas and Buddhas. Within a split moment, they will transform to gain rebirth to the ultimate bliss world of the Amitabha Buddha and attain a place in the jeweled lotus throne and eternally escape from the conditions of the cycle of rebirths, life, death, etc. Usually, the intermediate body will remain only for 7 days. If it is unable to find a place to get reborn within that time, then it must die and come back to life again as an intermediate body. But, in general, this period will not last more than 7 cycles of 7 days each before it is able to be reborn and acquire an after-existence body. When the intermediate body dies, it can return just as it was before, or depending on the karmic reflection, it can transform and change into an intermediate body of another realm before it acquires an after-existence body through reincarnation. When the intermediate body is nearing extinction and is about to be reincarnated, at that time, Depending on the various karma created by the individual, each will see and perceive different realities, i.e., while living those who created many karma of killing various animals, such as slaughtering pigs, goats, etc. Then at this time, suddenly all they will see is those various animals they have killed in the past. They may see butchers slaughtering animals or the sounds of animals screaming in agony. Because this is a reflection of the karma they created. Suddenly, the intermediate body will give rise to the state of joy and yearning to be near what they are seeing and hearing. Upon reaching their destination, they will be impeded by their environment and will no longer be able to free themselves from it. In a split moment, their intermediate body is dead as they acquire the after-existence body. According to Tibetan Buddhism, after death beings enter a so-called intermediate state, in which they acquire a subtle body that endures until they experience various intense sounds, sights, etc., which are products of their own minds. This is considered to be a time of great danger, as beings may react to their experiences in ways that cause them to be reborn in lower rebirth situations, gati. It can also be a time of great opportunity, as beings may make choices that lead them to higher rebirths, or even Buddhahood. There are 6 bardo states, according to the Kagyupa order. 1. Bardo between birth and death, which refers to the normal waking state between birth and death. 2. Dream bardo, the period between falling asleep and awakening. 3. Meditation bardo, a state of cessation in which the senses are withdrawn from external objects of observation. 4. Bardo of becoming, the period between the moment of death and rebirth. 5. Reality bardo, the time of unconsciousness that beings experience when overwhelmed by death, so called because during this time the mind returns to its primordial nature. And 6. Bardo of birth, which begins at the moment of rebirth into a new lifetime, immediately after the bardo of becoming. In the Great Heap Sutra, the Buddha taught, those sentient beings who committed evil karma, when they are about to die and are going to fall into evil paths, they will feel extremely sad and terrified. Depending on the reflection of their individual karma, they will see different images of the various evil paths appear. The intermediate body is about to be born in the Asura realm will see various beautiful and irresistible gardens. In these gardens, there are a variety of rings of flames rolling around everywhere. When seeing these images and they bring joy and elation to the spirit, this means that spirit will be born in this realm. The intermediate body about to enter the Asuras, through a recollections of the spirit karmic power, suddenly will see a large area of dim light, develop a yearning for it, go into that domain and reborn. The intermediate body is about to be born as a dog or pig will often see beautiful young ladies. The spirit will give rise to attachment and yearning to chase after them. Consequently, this spirit will be born in that realm. The intermediate body is about to be born as other types of animals will feel suddenly there is a gust of wind twisting so forcefully, it is impossible to oppose it. Or it may see infinite demons spreading and coming closer, or terrifying thunders and lightning overhead, etc. Or it may see fog covering, mountains splitting, water crashing, and the spirit will be terrified as it runs away into trees, bushes, and caves, in order to hide. Or it may see 3 large holes with the colors of white, red, and black, and will jump to hide. At that very moment, the spirit has entered the womb. When eyes are open, it will realize it has acquired the body of various animals, such as a fox, leopard, snake, etc. Those intermediate bodies about to be condemned to the path of hungry ghost, suddenly will see before them appear a vast and endless desert, without any vegetation or see only holes, dead and dry weeds, etc. The intermediate body which sees a great area of faded red light, feels a yearning and a wish to go there to play. The moment of entry is when the spirit is at the point of rebirth in the realm of hungry ghosts. The intermediate body is about to be born in hell, suddenly will begin hearing sounds of very sad and melancholy songs. These are the sounds of prisoners agonizing and screaming in hell. Next darkness will appear, houses made out of black and white iron, very melancholy looking, similar to being at a funeral. It may see deep holes and caves, the roads are unclear. At that time, it will see itself getting chased by ferocious demons with weapons in hand, forcing it to enter these areas. Once it is in there, it will lose all freedom and will be reborn in the realm of hell. Depending on each spirit's karmic retribution, it must endure infinite pains and sufferings. The intermediate body, which sees a great area of murky light similar to black smokes, feels a yearning and a wish to go there to play. The moment of entry is when the spirit is at the point of rebirth in hell. The intermediate body, about to be condemned to glacial hell through the reflection of the spirit's karmic power, suddenly will feel like an intolerable inferno. It then encounters the cold air rising from the glacial hell and will feel cool and refreshed. Its thoughts give rise to yearning and immediately will fly in search of that place to be cool. Once reaching this place, it is reborn. Intermediate body is about to be condemned to the inferno hell through the reflection of the spirit's karmic power, suddenly will feel an extreme and intolerable cold. It then encounters the hot air rising from the inferno hell and will feel warm and comfortable. Its thoughts give rise to yearning and immediately will fly in search for that warmth. Once reaching this place, it is reborn. The intermediate body, about to be condemned to the odorous hell, foul-smelling hell, through the reflection of the spirit's karmic power, suddenly will sense an intolerable and strong fragrance, perfume, wishes to find that it becomes nauseous. At that time, its mind wishes to find other foul-smelling odor to neutralize that good scent. It then encounters the foul odor rising from odorer. As a result, it is reborn in the odorous hell. 250. 10 reliances. Bodhisattvas take all Buddhas as a reliance because they teach ceaselessly like benevolent parents. This is one of the 10 kinds of reliance of great enlightening beings. According to the Flower Adornment Sutra, Chapter 38, Detachment from the World, the great enlightening being, universally good, told universal wisdom that offsprings of Buddha, great enlightening beings, have 10 kinds of reliance, which help them be able to obtain abodes of the unexcelled great knowledge of Buddhas. First, great enlightened beings take the determination for enlightenment as a reliance, as they never forget it. Second, great enlightened beings take spiritual friends as a reliance, harmonizing as one. Third, they take roots of goodness as a reliance, cultivating, gathering, and increasing them. Fourth, they take the transcendent ways as a reliance, fully practicing them. Fifth, they take all truths as a reliance, as they ultimately end in emancipation. Sixth, they take great vows as a reliance, as they enhance enlightenment. Seventh, great enlightened beings take practice as a reliance, consummating them all. Eighth, great enlightened beings take all enlightening beings as a reliance because they have the same one wisdom. Ninth, great enlightened beings take honoring the Buddhas as a reliance because their faith is purified. 10th, great enlightened beings take all Buddhas as a reliance because they teach ceaselessly like benevolent parents. According to the Flower Adornment Sutra, Chapter 38, there are 10 kinds of basis on which great enlightening beings carry out their practices. First, enlightening beings carry out the practices of enlightening beings, based on honoring all Buddhas. Second, enlightening beings carry out the practices of taming all sentient beings. Third, enlightening beings associate with all good companions. Fourth, enlightening beings accumulate all roots of goodness. Fifth, enlightening beings purify all Buddha lands. Sixth, enlightening beings do not abandon all sentient beings. Seventh, enlightening beings enter deeply into all transcendent ways. Eighth, enlightening beings fulfill vows of enlightening beings. Ninth, enlightening beings have infinite will for enlightenment. 10th, enlightening beings rely on enlightenment of all Buddhas. 251. Loving kindness and compassion. In Buddhism, loving kindness is one of the greatest emotions toward all sentient beings. Immeasurable loving kindness is the greatest love dedicated to all sentient beings, together with the desire to bring them joy and happiness. Human joy is totally impermanent, it is governed by misery, that is, when our passions such as greed, anger, and ignorance are satisfied, we feel pleased, but when they are not satisfied, we feel sad. To have a permanent joy, we must first sever all sufferings. Loving kindness generally goes together with pity, whose role is to help the subject sever his sufferings, while the role of loving kindness is to save sentient beings from sufferings and to bring them joy. However, loving kindness is not an inborn characteristic. If we really want to develop our loving kindness, we have to devote more time to practice. Sitting in meditation alone cannot bring us the so-called loving kindness. In order to achieve the loving kindness, we must put loving kindness in actions in our daily life. In our daily activities, we must develop empathy and closeness to others by reflecting on their sufferings. For example, when we know someone's suffering, we should try our best to console them by kind words, or to help them with our worldly possessions if needed. Loving kindness has the power of bestowing temporal happiness upon us in this lifetime. Without love, people in this world will encounter a lot of problems: anger, hatred, jealousy, envy, arrogance, etc. A Buddhist should develop love for all sentient beings and to cherish others more than oneself. Love should be given equally to everyone, including relatives or strangers, friends or foes, given without any conditions, without self-interests or attachment. First, loving kindness or love will help us gain strong meritorious power. Second, when we offer loving kindness to other people, we will gain their love and respect at the same time. Third, loving kindness helps us overcome all kinds of graspings of wealth and other hindrances. Fourth, loving kindness helps us experience more physical comfort. Fifth, loving kindness, benevolence, is one of the most important entrances to the great enlightenment, for with it, good roots prevail in all situations in our daily life. According to the Vimalakirti Sutra, Chapter 7, Contemplating a Living Being, when Manjusri called on to inquire Vimalakirti's illness, Manjusri asked Vimalakirti, "When a bodhisattva meditates, how should he practice kindness, Maitri?" Vimalakirti replied, "When a bodhisattva has made this meditation, he should think as the followings. First, devout Buddhists should teach living beings to meditate in the same manner. This is true kindness. Second, devout Buddhists should practice causeless, nirvanic kindness which prevents creativeness. Third, devout Buddhists should practice unheeded kindness which puts an end to klesa, troubles and causes of trouble. Fourth, devout Buddhists should practice impartial kindness which covers all the three periods of time, which means that it is eternal, involving past, future and present. Fifth, devout Buddhists should practice passionless kindness which wipes out disputation. Sixth, devout Buddhists should practice non-dual kindness which is beyond sense organs within and sense data without. Seventh, devout Buddhists should practice indestructible kindness which eradicates all corruptibility. Eighth, devout Buddhists should practice stable kindness which is a characteristic of the undying self-mind. Ninth, devout Buddhists should practice pure and clean kindness which is spotless like Dharmata. 10th, devout Buddhists should practice boundless kindness which is all-pervasive like space. 11th, devout Buddhists should practice the kindness of the Arat stage which destroys all bondage. 12th, devout Buddhists should practice the Bodhisattva kindness which gives comfort to living beings. 13th, devout Buddhists should practice the Tathagata kindness which leads to the state of thatness. 14th, devout Buddhists should practice the Buddha kindness which enlightens all living beings. 15th, devout Buddhists should practice spontaneous kindness which is causeless. 16th, devout Buddhists should practice Bodhi kindness which is one flavor, i.e. uniform and unmixed wisdom. 17th, devout Buddhists should practice unsurpassed kindness which cuts off all desires. 18th, devout Buddhists should practice merciful kindness which leads to the Mahayana path. 19th, devout Buddhists should practice untiring kindness because of deep insight into the void and non-existent ego. 20th, devout Buddhists should practice Dharma bestowing, dana, kindness, which is free from regret and repentance. Should practice Dharma bestowing, dana, kindness, which is free from regret and repentance. 21st, devout Buddhists should practice precepts, sila, upholding kindness to convert those who have broken the commandments. 22nd, devout Buddhists should practice patient, ksanti, kindness which protects both the self and others. 23rd, devout Buddhists should practice zealous, virya, kindness to liberate all living beings. 24th, devout Buddhist should practice serene, dhyana, kindness, which is unaffected by the five senses. 25th, devout Buddhist should practice wise, prajna, kindness which is always timely. 26th, devout Buddhist should practice expedient, upaya, kindness to appear at all times for converting living beings. 27th, devout Buddhist should practice unhidden kindness because of the purity and cleanness of the straightforward mind. 28th, devout Buddhist should practice profound-minded kindness which is free from discrimination. 29th, devout Buddhist should practice undeceptive kindness which is faultless. 30th, devout Buddhist should practice joyful kindness which bestows the Buddha joy, in nirvana. Such are the specialities of Bodhisattva kindness should practice joyful kindness which bestows the Buddha joy, in nirvana. Such are the specialities of Bodhisattva kindness. In the Dhammapada Sutta, the Buddha taught, loving kindness is the only way to destroy hatred. Hatred cannot be defeated with more hatred. There is no greater love in this world than the love of the mother and father. If a person, carrying father on the left shoulder and mother on the right shoulder, were to walk around the Sumera mountain hundreds of thousands of times, with blood covering both feet, it would still not be enough to repay the love and hardship of child-rearing. According to the Metta Sutta, the Buddha taught, may all beings be happy and secure. May their mind be contented. Whatever beings there may be, feeble or strong, long, great or medium, small or large, seen or unseen, those dwelling far or near, those who are born, and those who are yet to be born. May all beings, without exception, be happy just as a mother would protect her only child, even at the risk of her own life. Even so, let one cultivate boundless heart towards all beings. Let one's thoughts of boundless love pervade the whole world, above, below and across, without any obstruction, any hatred or any enmity. 252. Kindness and compassion. According to Most Venerable Thien Phuc and the 13 Patriarchs of Pure Land Buddhism, what is the compassionate mind? To be compassionate is to pity and to be empathetic, wishing to help and rescue others without having discriminations or attachment to various characteristics. This means altruism or to have mercy and compassion, wishing to help others, but not to have any intention of taking advantages. For instance, seeing someone rich, beautiful, etc., one pretends to be compassionate by helping, but having ulterior motives of self-gain. This is called desirous views or developing love and lust, when seeing wealth and beauty according to binding ways of sentient beings. Thus, to act in this way cannot be called being compassionate. It was the spirit of loving kindness and compassion taught by the Buddha that touched the heart of King Asoka, the great Buddhist emperor of India in the 3rd century BC. Before he became a Buddhist, he was a warlike monarch like his father, King Bimbisara, and his grandfather, King Chandragupta. Wishing to extend his territories, he invaded and conquered Kalinga. In this war, thousands were slain, while many more were wounded and taken captive. Later, however, when he followed the Buddha's creed of compassion, he realized the folly of killing. He felt very sad when he thought of the great slaughter and gave up warfare. He is the only military monarch on record who, after victory, gave up conquest by war and inaugurated conquest by righteousness. As his rock edict Shi says, he sheathed the sword never to unsheath it and wished no harm to living beings. The spread of the Buddha's creed of compassion throughout the Eastern world was largely due to the enterprise and tireless efforts of Asoka the Great. The Buddha law made Asia mild and non-aggressive. However, modern civilization is pressing hard on Asian lands. It is known that with the rise and development of the so-called civilization, man's culture deteriorates and he changes for the worse. With the match of modern science, very many changes have taken place, and all these changes and improvements, being material and external, tend to make modern man more and more worldly minded and sensuous, with the result that he neglects the qualities of the mind and becomes self-interested and heartless. The waves of materialism seem to influence mankind and affect their way of thinking and living. People are so bound by their senses, they live so exclusively in the material world that they fail to contact the good within. Only the love and compassion taught by the Buddha can establish complete mental harmony and well-being. 253. 6 Paramitas. According to the Sanskrit language, paramita means crossing over. 6 paramitas mean the 6 things that ferry one beyond the sea of mortality to nirvana. 6 stages of spiritual perfection followed by the bodhisattva in his progress to Buddhahood. The 6 virtues of perfection are not only characteristic of Mahayana Buddhism in many ways, they also contain virtues commonly held up as cardinal by all religious systems. They consist of the practice and highest possible development. Thus, practicing the 6 paramitas will lead the practitioner to cross over from the shore of the unenlightened to the dock of enlightenment. Devout Buddhists always know that the 6 paramitas are the basic methods of cultivation for a Buddhist, but we do not try to practice them. To meet anyone at anywhere, we always talk about the 6 perfections, but when the situation comes, we do not want to practice giving, we do not keep the precepts, we cannot tolerate any circumstances, we are not vigorous, we do not set aside time to practice meditation, and as a result, we cannot use real wisdom to conduct our daily activities. So, what is the use of the cultivation of outside appearance? There are people who do not want to give out a cent, on the contrary, they demand others to give to them, the more the better. They always want to gain the advantage and not take a loss. We all know that holding precepts means keeping the precepts that the Buddha taught, but when states come, we break the precepts instead of keeping them. Although we all know that patience can take us to the other shore, but when we meet a difficult situation, we can never be patient. Everyone wants to be vigorous, but only vigorous in worldly businesses, not in cultivation. We all know that we should meditate to concentrate our mind so that wisdom can manifest, but we only talk and never practice. For these reasons, the Buddha taught the 6 perfections. Giving means to give wealth or budded dharma to others, holding precepts means to keep the precepts that the Buddha taught, and to refrain from wrongdoings. Patience means to patiently endure the things that do not turn out the way we wish them to. Vigor means to be vigorous in cultivation. Meditation means to concentrate our mind until there are no more idle thoughts, and wisdom enables us to reach the other shore and end birth and death. This is the end of this video. If you're enjoying and benefit from this video and want to see more awesome content like this, please consider hitting that subscribe button below. It's the best way to stay updated with all of our latest videos. And if you found this video beneficial, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends and family. Your support means the world to us, and it helps our channel grow. Thank you for being part of our incredible community. Together, we can make this channel even more fantastic. Stay tuned for more beneficial content coming your way. Thank you.